Okay, in this fourth episode, we'll look at the application of the zero index law and the one index law of indices. First of all, let's look at this example. The example is simplify 6 times z raised to power 0. So before we start solving this question, the zero index law, we've already talked about it in the very first episode. We talked about all the laws and their statement. So the zero index law, that is the zero index law, the zero index law states that x raised to the power of 0 is equal to x raised to the power of 0, x raised to the power of 0 is equal to 1. What this law means is that anything raised to the power of 0 is equal to 1. So that tells you that your z raised to the power of 0 is still the same thing as is equal to 1. So you can have 500 raised to the power of 0, the answer will be 1. You can have 1 million raised to the power of 0, 1 million, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 raised to the power of 0, the answer will be 1. So anything raised to the power of 0 is equal to 1. So then we have the one index law, the one index law of indices, and the law states that s raised to the power 1 is equal to x. So what this means is that anything raised to the power of 1 is equal to that number. So 6 raised to the power 1 is equal to 6. 9 raised to the power 1 is equal to 9. Or you can have x. X is still the same thing as x raised to the power of 1. Because of this sign of equality, it means this x raised to the power 1 is equal to x, just as we've written here, x raised to the power 1 is equal to x. X can also be equal to x raised to the power 1. So this is just the statement of the one index law of indices. It states that x raised to the power 1 is equal to x. The zero index law states that x raised to the power 0 is equal to 1. So back to our example. Simplify 6 times z raised to the power 0. So z raised to the power 0 according to the zero index law is equal to 1, because anything raised to the power 0 is equal to 1. So your answer will now be 6 times 1. Z raised to the power 0 is equal to 1, so that will be 6 times 1. And 6 times 1 is equal to 6. So this is the answer. Let's look at example 2. Example 2 is simplify 2x raised to the power 1 times 2x raised to the power 0. I can do this, I can solve this question by applying the multiplication law of indices. I can also solve this question by applying the negative index law, the one index law and the zero index law of indices. But let's go through the two processes. If I should go with the multiplication law of indices, so I have 2x raised to the power of 1 times 2x raised to the power of 0. So the first thing I want to do here is I want to first of all identify the number and identify the index number. So I have here 2 is the ordinary number, x raised to the power 1 is the index number, 2 is the ordinary number, x raised to the power 0 is the index number. So what I will do is I will use the ordinary number to multiply the ordinary number and use the index number to multiply the index number. So that process is what I did there is rearrangement. So what I'm going to have is I will use the number here to multiply the number that is here, and also I will use the index number here to multiply the index number that is here, which is x raised to the power 0. So having done that, I can now multiply. 2 times 2 will give you 4. So x raised to the power 1 times x raised to the power 0. How are you going to multiply this? you can multiply it by applying the multiplication law of indices. So that would be times x raised to the power of 1 plus 0. So since the root numbers are the same, we take 1, which is this x, and add the power. That is the multiplication law of indices. So that will be equal to 4 times x raised to the power of 1 plus 0 will give you 1. So that is 4 times x raised to the power of 1. And anything raised to the power of 1, according to the one index law, is equal to that number. So if I have, for example, 6 raised to the power 1 is still the same thing as 6. 9 raised to the power 1 is the same thing as 9. So x raised to the power 1 is equal to x. So that would be 4 times x. And 4 times x will give you 4x. So this is the answer. But the thing is, I can also go through applying the one index law and zero index law straight away. So let me use another pen to illustrate this. Okay, I think I will use a green pen. Yes, a green pen. So I have 2x raised to the power 1 times 2x raised to the power 0. So according to the one index law, x raised to the power 1 is equal to x. So if I should simplify this expression, this is equal to 2x. Why? X raised to the power 1, according to the one index law, is equal to x times. Here I have x raised to the power 0. X raised to the power 0, according to the zero index law, is equal to 1. That is, x raised to the power 0 is equal to 1. Anything raised to the power of 0, remember from the first example, is equal to 1. So 6 raised to the power 0 is equal to 1. So if I apply that rule here, already I know that my x raised to the power of 0 is equal to 1. So that will, x raised to the power of 0 is equal to 1. So that will be 2 times 1. And 2 times 1 is equal to 2. So that will be equal to 2x times 2 times 1 is equal to 2. So 2x times 2 will be equal to 4x. So this answer and this answer, they are the same. So whichever way you choose to go, whether to go through the multiplication law or just go straight away to the negative and zero to the one index and zero index law, you will still be correct. So let's look at the last example in this episode 4, because this law is a very simple law. So I have 2a times 3a raised to the power of 2. So I have here 2a times 3a raised to the power of 2. So you should know already that from the one index law that x raised to power 1 is equal to x. So that tells you as well that x is equal to x raised to power 1, because these two things are equal, right? So that tells you that x is still the same thing as x raised to power 1. So your 2a here, since a is carrying a power here, a raised to power 2, that means that this is also carrying a power but is not shown here. You know, 1 is an insignificant number. That is why s raised to power 1 is still the same thing as s. Why? Because 1 is insignificant. So that means that your expression 2a is still the same thing as 2a raised to power 1 times 3a raised to power 2. Why? The reason is because s, according to the one index law, a raised to power 1 is equal to a, and your a is equal to a raised to power 1. So your a that is here is still the same thing as a raised to power 1 that is here. So having done this, you can now multiply. So what you're going to do here, identify the number, the ordinary number. The ordinary number here is 2. The index number here is a raised to power 1. The ordinary number here is 3. The index number here is a raised to power 2. So use the ordinary number to multiply the ordinary number and use the index number to multiply the index number. So if we do that, what we're going to have is 2 times 3. Ordinary number to ordinary number, then times a raised to power 1 times a raised to power 2. Index number to index number. So that will be equal to 2 times 3 will give you 6 times. So how do you multiply a raised to power 1 times a raised to power 3? Obviously, it is by applying the multiplication law of indices. So according to the multiplication law, since a is here and a is also here, I will take one of the a and add the powers. So the powers are 1 plus 2. So 1 plus 2 will give you 3. So that will be equal to 6 times a raised to power 3. 6 times a raised to power 3 is equal to 6 a raised to power 3. So this is the answer. Oh yes, so with this we are done with the 1 index and the 0 index law of indices. In the next episode, which is the 5th episode, we will look at the other law, which is the negative index law of indices.